interested in thought, want to delve into the mind and value the viewpoint of a learned man of the law, of a respected teacher, finder of lost tribes, a gatherer of lost sheep. If we've never met, I'm Matt Maloney, founder of Northern Vibe. We're about sharing stories. This is where curiosity is cultivated, and this is where discussions are held with interesting, informed people. And I'm really happy to have Rabbi Ari Rubin of Chabad, Cairns with me tonight. Now, many of you would have seen my posting of Northern Vibe metrics and know that we've reached over 10,000 people now in the short time that we've been going. So this is due to you. Each viewer, each supporter, each time you tune in, each time you watch, each time you like and share, you're contributing. Thank you very much. It's you making Northern Vibes increasing success happen. So thanks very much. We are growing. We do need your help to keep up momentum. We're getting some very interesting locations where people are listening from. So please tell us where you're from. A big hello to Adelaide coming up on the screen there. We've also got some great suggestions from the comments page, so keep them coming. This includes suggestions for guests. If there's someone you want to hear from, or indeed, if you personally are interested in coming on Northern Vibe, contact me through the Facebook page. As you know, we always have a mention in dispatches for some of the great work that is happening. Of course, this week's is the Rabbi's personal charity, Chabad, Cairns. He'll explain it as we go along, so I don't have to do the spiel here. Now, a brief bio about Rabbi Ari. He was born in the United States, but he grew up in Melbourne. There he attended Yeshiva Gedolah, and he spent time learning at rabbinical schools around the world, including in London, New York, and Israel. Now, one can't really talk about him without mentioning his excellent wife, Rabbi Rubin. She's from Jerusalem, but I'll get Ari to talk about her later. Now, Ari is a member of the Orthodox Hadeistic sect, whose religious duty is to connect Jews to Judaism. Shalom, Rabbi. Thanks very much for coming on.
Thanks so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm really excited. Thanks again for doing our promo for our Hanukkah event that we had, which was really well received, and it was a great event. And thanks for your input and part of that. And it's great to be here again.
Oh, mate, it's absolutely my pleasure. And even that little thing, just from the metrics that I can measure, excluding likes and shares, I got 667 views just from this page. And for a short promotion, that's cool. But look, I've called this the chosen podcast, Rabbi. I do hope you don't mind. And there's nothing about that.
Yeah, no, not at all. That's fine. You know, there's a beer in America. It's called He Brews Beer, the chosen beer. It just reminds me of that.
Hey, you haven't got any pictures of her or anything, because I'm making sure I'm not going to die of thirst during this interview. So
that's right. Yeah, simple Google.
All right. Hey, tell me about you. You know, where have you lived?
Yeah, so I consider myself a Melburnian, even though I was born in America, but I moved when I was 3 to Melbourne. I basically lost my accent after my 7 or 8 years of studying overseas. So that's I left basically when I finished school at 18. I studied in London for a year and then all over America. I did a couple stints in Venice and a stint in Israel, and then got married and moved back there for a little bit, and then went back to Melbourne, and then came over here. So,
wow, like I'm relatively well traveled. It's a pretentious thing to say, but it's quite true. But mate, that's right up there, and that's actually living in locations as well. But look. I've got some questions that I kind of want to lead into, but that's really interesting. What's your favorite place that you've studied?
I mean, my favorite place is obviously Israel. I mean, I can't, you know, none of the places go anywhere near there. Especially because after we got married, now it's a no-brainer. I have family there, and Mushki's whole family's there, so it's just, you know, besides for the family aspect, Israel was incredible. But I think probably my most interesting experience was probably my time spent in Venice. Had an amazing time there, helping out the Chabad rabbi and rebbitzin there in the Jewish ghetto in Venice, which is actually a very a whole interesting story by itself. It's the first ghetto that ever existed. The word ghetto comes from the Italian word for that area where the Jewish ghetto was. And we met such incredible people there and had an amazing time with the Chabad rabbi and rebbitzin there. That is really just sticks out of in my memory. And I encourage anybody who's going through Italy to go to Venice and to specifically check out the Jewish ghetto over there, because it's incredible. It's something. And say hello to the Chabad rabbi from me when you go there.
Oh, that's absolutely awesome. And look, we're getting some love on the Facebook page. So hello to the viewers in Cairns, and thank you very much for coming in, and g'day to Narelle, especially, who's been absolutely magnificent. So look, I've got to say, I've been to Israel. I absolutely love that place. Like, the beer is fantastic. I was a single man when I got engaged before I went there. So like, I didn't do anything, but I kind of, God, there were some beautiful women there, Yeah, it was some of those. If I can tell a really quick anecdote, I was crossing the I was crossing the border, and here's this absolutely beautiful girl, and I mean stunning, like model material girl with an AR-33 slung over her shoulder. I didn't know whether to be intimidated or excited when I kind of saw that. But look, what called you to the rabbinical life?
That's a great question. I don't know, specifically. Life has its ups and downs, and as a real early child, I wanted to be a rabbi and I wanted to go into that profession. But then after I kind of graduated, kind of waxed and waned again. But I think really my time visiting the different Chabad houses, the different kind of like Chabad community centers around the world, that kind of really made me appreciate the work that a Chabad rabbi could do, and that really got me the most excited to be able to do it. So a Chabad rabbi isn't just a clergyman that is taking care of a congregation. We're making and creating a congregation, and then we take care of it. So we're convincing people to come to events, then we're running the events, and then we're finding sponsors to be able to sponsor them. So it's like, we do the whole gamut from beginning to end. And I think by doing so, we really make a big impression, and it definitely left an impression on me, and that got me excited to be able to do the work of the Chabad head rabbi, the Rebbe that we call him, and filling the niche in Cairns to be able to service the needs of any Jewish person that or non-Jewish that makes their way across our threshold. And
look, that is so cool, and of course the opportunities that it's given you, like going to Vienna, that's amazing. That's another city I've visited, and I rate that place incredibly highly as well. So yeah, look, kudos to you. Look, I know Mushki, your wife, is, quite literally your other half and indispensable to the work you do here in the North. My daughter actually really likes her a lot. Any time that I go there, she goes, make sure you tell Mrs. Rubin I said g'day. How did you two meet? Like,
yeah, so that's a great story. So you're absolutely right. And Mushki is the powerhouse here. She's there. I'm more admin. She's more hands-on. She does everything. And that's part of the reason why we came up here. I was very happy to live in Melbourne. But Mushki really wanted to go to a place where she could feel that she was making a difference. And she wanted to she didn't want to just be another Rebbitzin in Melbourne, another Chabad couple living in Melbourne. She really wanted to come to a small community where she could feel that she was really making a difference to everyone. And that's how we came here. How we met is a very interesting story. I don't know if you have enough time. I'll just say it in short. So in the Hasidic group that we're a part of, we have it's called a matchmaker, but essentially it's more like a dating service where instead of having these online platforms where you put in all your info and they spit out suggestions, you have a real person to do that to. So we met through a real matchmaker, through our matchmaker, where I was studying in New York, an Australian in New York. She was an Israeli helping out a Chabad rabbi in Mason, Ohio. And we had a matchmaker that lived in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. that matched us up. And she was a great matchmaker, really special. She sat down with me. We had a conversation of what I was looking for, and she went through the list of what she thought, questions that I'd be interested in what a partner was. And what struck me so much about her is that she didn't straight away spit out an answer. It's not like she had she did have a database of all these, girls and guys, and she knew she had a list, but she didn't straight away spit out a suggestion to me, straight away. She saw there wasn't anybody that would fit what I was looking for, and she wasn't going to try and put a circle in a square peg. So she waited, and then Mushki came along, and as soon as she was interviewing Mushki, she realized that there'd be a great fit for me. And we went out, and she wasn't the first person that I went out with, not by a long stretch, but I was one of her few, and thank God it all worked out, and we haven't looked back since.
Right, that is a really cool story, and I remember years ago actually reading a story. I think it was Red Shoes for Rachel. I don't remember the name of the author, where a young rabbi went to a matchmaker and really was keen on ended up falling in love with the matchmaker's daughter. And really, my daughter's no good for you. She wears red shoes. She's totally inappropriate for rabbi. But yeah, they kind of it was a real Romeo and Juliet story, and they lived happily ever after.
Yeah. What was the last bit you said? Sorry.
Sorry, how many kids you got?
Oh, how many children do you have? We have 3, thank God. We have 3. Our eldest is 5. Our youngest is 1. Yeah.
Right. And look, there were and look, we'll go into the I've got a couple of queries I want to hit you about. Now we know there were Jewish people in the first fleet. And in fact, there's really good evidence that there's Jewish people who've lived here in Far North Queensland since the times of early settlement. But you're the first rabbi to come north. Hey, what took you so long, Rabbi? No, just kidding. When did you actually arrive? When did you get here?
So we first stepped on the shores of Cairns. January will be 5 years. 5 years ago, January. But we didn't move there. We just came to scout out the area. We kind of met with the Jewish communities, saw if this would be a fit for us, and saw if we would be a fit for them. And it wasn't until March this March it'll be 5 years since we permanently moved in.
Look, it must have been a bit of a challenge too, because I've read stories of Jewish people traveling a long way to partake in rituals like bar mitzvah. For those not familiar with any Hebrew, mitzvah means like celebration. So not to have a rabbi here to perform the rituals and ceremonies must have acted on the community. And I understand that there are some modern day equivalents. Tell me about the bar mitzvah boy from Bowen.
Yeah, so first of all, what you were mentioning before about the first fleet, that's true. Esther Abrams, and there was another 6 Jews in the first fleet, and there were for as long as there is people, as long as there was the European settlement here, there were Jewish people here. There are some of the oldest synagogues in Australia are in convict land. So we have 2 synagogues in Tasmania, many in Victoria and New South Wales. But as you mentioned, there are also some here in Queensland. There is a fascinating book on the 150-year history of Jewish life in Queensland. And there were convicts that were sent to Cooktown. And there is a Jewish cemetery in Cooktown. there was a Jewish community in Bundaberg. There was so much so that they almost got a rabbi out. And right now they have Torah classes there. Rockhampton and Bundaberg now have Torah classes by my colleague Rabbi Mendel Chodoretsky, who takes care of the Sunshine Coast leading up to Gladstone in that area. But yeah, there's some fascinating history here. We have stories about people who would travel six or 7 weeks to be able to get a rabbi to come up to officiate at a wedding or to come down for bar mitzvah. Our two pillars in the Jewish community here in Cairns, the two Kanzler boys, I mean, now they're not boys, but when they were boys, they went down to Brisbane. Their father, Paul Kamzol, the Shalom of blessed memory, he brought them down to Brisbane to be able to get them bar mitzvah, to be able to have bar mitzvah, which is kind of the coming of age ceremony for boys at 13 and girls at 12. And so, Jews have always relished in the rituals. And so it was very important to be able to have these things. Since I've moved up here, I've been lucky enough to be part of a whole bunch of different celebrations with some circumcisions, some weddings, and many bar mitzvahs. And thank God we were very lucky to be able to have the family that came up from Bowen to have their bar mitzvah with us. Right now, I have 3 boys who we're learning, who I'm learning with, to be able to have their bar mitzvahs here soon. And I just met with one of them this morning from Townsville, and there's 2 in Townsville, 1 in Cairns, who are going through their progress to be able to have their bar mitzvah ceremony. So yeah, it still is very important, even though they may be far from a community, but it's still very important for them to be able to have it. And thank God we're very lucky to be able to help them in whatever way we can.
Look, that is great. And actually, look, I've got the magnificent Jabru Boyd who's on, and she wants to ask a couple of questions. I don't have time to type on right there, but Jabru, ask away, type them up, and I promise I'll put them there. And indeed, some of our listeners on here, just by way of explanation, Rabbi, I'm watching the comments. On the Facebook page, and we've had some people asking how they can meet. Is there any lessons or anything they can go to that are open to Gentiles? So perhaps you could discuss that.
Yeah, sure. So probably the easiest way is to log on to our Facebook page to be able to see everything that happens. But also our website, chabadnorthqueensland.com, is a great resource. And we have Torah classes on Tuesday nights, and they're actually accessible on Zoom as well. So if anybody's not able to make it in person, they can go to chabadnorthqueensland.com/Zoom. So it's just adding the word Zoom to the end of our, but log on at exactly 8 o'clock on Tuesday, because otherwise we'll just get to an empty room. It's not like a proper website. It's just our Zoom login page. And we're very excited to share the wisdom of the Torah with anybody that's interested. And as Matt knows, Judaism is not one to look for converts. We're specifically warned to turn converts away if they to be able to, if somebody comes and they ask to convert, we try to convince them not to, because Judaism believes that every single person has their own mission in life. And as long as they keep the 7 laws of Noah, which makes the world a better place, which is don't kill, don't steal, don't commit illicit relations, like incest and things like that. Don't be cruel to animals, create a system of courts and justice, belief in God, and don't blaspheme God's name. As long as you keep those 7, you get the same heaven as us, you get the same rewards as us, and therefore we're not looking to convert, and we're not looking to get any followers in that regard. But as Matt mentioned, we are looking for Jews. We want to bring Jews back to their heritage. Any Jew and our mission here is to be able to bring Jews back into their heritage, to be able to make them more proud to be Jewish and want to hang out with other Jews. And yeah, our Torah classes are a great class. Welcome to everybody. Welcome to all. And we don't judge, and we don't proselytize, if I pronounced that right.
Yeah. And look, absolutely. Look, I wasn't actually going to include this in the interview, but you know what? I'm going to chuck it in because it's just so relevant to that. I have to declare an interest, gentlemen. I do attend the Rabbi's Torah lessons, and indeed, I unashamedly, I'm Christian. I unashamedly declare that I'm a happy student of the Rabbi, and I look. Tell me about Jewish history and life in Cairns. And it looks like, so before I lead into that, really quickly, how many Jewish people are living in the district, and about how big is it? And then tell me about Jewish life here in Cairns.
Sure. So we estimate around 500 Jews that live in the Cairns, regional area, going up to like Port Douglas area, probably another 200-300 or so that live Townsville, Mackay, Early Beach. We go all the way down to Mackay. That's the furthest we go to. And we go inland as far as we can go. It's not that far at the moment because we don't really know so many Jews that live in the total outskirts. But yeah, thank God we have a nice size community of Jews that we can get to and relate to. And we're really excited to be able to reach any Jew in whichever capacity we can.
Fantastic. And mate, so what sort of things do you guys get up to? Like, tell me about Jewish life up here. Like, well,
Sure.
let me lead into a more specific question. Tell me about, you've had some excellent menorahs recently. Tell me about first the boomerang menorah. It was the most recent one. And then tell me about the mango.
Well, thanks to the promotion from the Northern Vibe, we got a great turnout at our Hanukkah celebration that just happened a week and a half ago. We unveiled the first ever boomerang menorah. You can see on our Facebook page or just Google it to be able to see pictures of it. And it was really nice. We wanted to kind of bring together the Australian theme plus the Jewish concept. So we created a menorah which celebrates Hanukkah with boomerangs as the indigenous or the Australian way of life. And so we brought those together, and thank God we had a great crowd, and I think everyone enjoyed it. I actually had a very interesting. There was one couple who came up to me, and the wife is Jewish, and the husband is indigenous, and they came up to me, and I hadn't really had made contact before. I think that was my first time meeting them, but I'll tell you, it was worth doing the whole event to be able to have them to come to it and enjoy, to see the pride that they had, to see that these two cultures are not contradiction, and their daughter came to me and said she wants to start coming to events and everything, and she said something really beautiful, which I said was absolutely true, and it was really emblematic, that she's 100% indigenous and 100% Jewish. And I said, that's the truth. That's the truth. And I was, so happy to be able to hear that from her. And we're looking forward to be able to seeing them come to our events soon. And it was worth creating, that menorah just to be able to have them to come and feel that pride. And yeah, and I think that's emblematic of our mission here, is to try and bring the Jewish pride in every Jew and wherever they can be. And all of our programs are kind of geared around that idea, to try and make it a little bit easier for Jews to continue being Jewish, to be proud of being Jewish.
And look, we've actually got a couple of really quick questions. We've got some questions coming up. And that I'm just going to, because we're halfway through, we are flying through this interview. So I've had Jabiru Boyd ask, she's really interested in regards to rituals and whatnot regarding the death, regarding death and whatnot. And there's it's because she's involved in funerary rites and that. Jabru, I can indicate that we've done specific lessons on that. You'll be able to find them on the website, but I also do recommend that you come along to the lessons. It would just take too much time. I love the Rabbi. I promise we'll get him on at some other time. I'd love the Rabbi to come in and perhaps give some actual lessons, and we might even end up putting him through Northern Vibes, the specific lessons. That could be something that we can kind of end up doing. But look, there are some beautiful specific ceremonies in regards to that. There are some very interesting, and I can talk from someone who comes from the outside in. So perhaps, Jabru, you'll find this very interesting. I can indicate that the views in regards to the spirit and its relationship with the material body, how long it spends on the earth, and in regards to communication, for people can still communicate directly with the deceased person. Very interesting, very deep. And if you're slightly interested in theology, I really recommend that. It's kind of it's all there. So dive deep into that. Thank you very much for that question. That's absolutely spectacular that you're thinking that deeply that early. Look, I'm going to play. Look, I understand too that you and some other rabbis were subject to a documentary. So I'm just going to quickly play the teaser.
There were two rabbis, Rabbi Yossi of Melbourne and Rabbi Ari of Cairns. In partnership with their wives, they are hitting the road on an unlikely mission, the search for Jews.
We're about to go Jew shopping.
These Outback rabbis scour this vast land looking for lost members of the tribe.
Do you know any Jews that might live in?
No, not mine.
No, I don't.
No.
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 They are members of Chabad, an ultra-Orthodox Hasidic sect whose religious duty is to connect Jews to Judaism. For weeks at a time, the rabbis go bush in their synagogue on wheels.
You could say it looks a little bit weird, it's loud and it's in your face, but that's the point.
Lots of people here who have never met a Jewish person.
The Chabad of Rara slogan is "No Jew will be left behind."
Every day, their faith will be tested. These city slicker rabbis are heading into the unknown on a mission from God, creating a community for the Jews of the Outback.
Just like the Jews were hunted down once with hate, now it's the time for them to be hunted down with love.
And look, I really recommend anyone to get on and have. I've seen it a couple of times now. I just love it, and especially
Free on SBS.
Yeah. So
SBS on demand.
SBS on demand. Ari, you got to tell me about that. Like, how did that?
Oh, trust me, I could
tell me
speak
some
for the
more
next
stories.
hour just on that.
Yeah. Wow. Let's dive in.
I mean, there's so much to say about that. I mean, where to begin? You know, I suppose I'll say there's the response from it has been amazing, and thank God it was really well received. We've had really positive reviews, both on the cinematic level and also on the personal levels of different Jews. And to be honest, when we first were broached on the topic, when the director called us up to tell us about it, we were very much not interested in taking part in the documentary. We were, trying to put him off, trying to say, oh, there's nothing to see, there's nothing really exciting here, and we were just putting it on the shoulders of Solly Spigler, who's our boss and who's the creator in Chabad of Rara. And we were really not interested in having a camera crew come into our lives and just especially we had some horror stories from relatives of ours who went in front of a camera crew and whatever they said was taken out of context, and they were made to look like these villains and stuff. So we had big reservations about it. But our Solly Spigler, who's as I mentioned before, he created it, so he didn't really do much convincing, just told us it's happening. So we were like, okay, it's happening. And so we went along with that. And thank God we did. And it was a great call. It was a really good call. And we didn't know about we didn't know anything about Danny Ben Moshe, the director, and he was absolutely amazing, incredible person, great, really caring and it was very really well done. And thanks to his efforts, he did an incredible job doing it. He just knew what to look for, knew how to find things, and he did a really incredible job. And it was, I think it was really great because it was able to open up to the wider audience to see what Hasidic Jews are like. Hasidic Jews are usually known more as reclusive, especially knowing the bad press that they usually get and things like that. So it was really nice to be the face of positive news stories about ultra-Orthodox Jews and things like that.
All right, so tell me a war story. What's the funniest thing that happened
in the documentary or in general? In
the documentary, and then.
Oh, okay. I mean, everything that got put in the documentary, to each one of those bits was a whole story that was hilarious and funny, and I mean, just going through each story from the from the documentary is itself really exciting. I don't know about war stories, but some really inspiring stories is there's a guy in the documentary called Krusty Heron, and he's a good friend of ours from Townsville, from Magnetic Island. And he opened himself up on the documentary, and he really, he made himself a bit vulnerable. He showed how spiritual he was, even though on the outside he just looks like a regular person. But he showed how in tune he is with Judaism, and that he's really a very spiritual person. And he happens to be a wedding planner, and he got right after the documentary aired for the first time, he got a call from one of his clients who said, "I'm atheist, and I just saw your documentary. I just saw you on the documentary, and I don't want you to have anything to do with my wedding. I don't want a religious person," even though he's far from what what the typical religious person would look like. But you can clearly see his soul is a religious soul, and he's spiritual, very spiritual soul. And so he said, "I don't want to have anything to do with that." And so he said. I'm going to find somewhere else or somebody else. And Krusty's great. He doesn't, he believes everything is from God, and he took it from just straight trust and straight faith. And he calls me up that night and he says, "Rabbi Ari, I have a story to tell me." He tells me exactly what I just told you. And then he says, "About 15 minutes ago, I got a call from somebody who said, 'I'm so sorry, Mr. Heron, that it's so late. And I'm so sorry to do this to you. And if it's not possible, I totally understand it. But I had plans to get married in a certain other area, and it fell through at the last minute. Would you be able to officiate at my wedding on such and such a date at such and such a time?'" And Krusty looked at me and he tells me on the phone. He said, "That was the exact same date that this other guy who canceled out on him had booked for."
No way.
So, Krusty said to me, is like, if that's not proof of God's existence, what could be? But yeah, the documentary was really incredible. I mean, we had some great scenes that were done just on the fly. The scene of meeting the Jew in Shirley in the pub in South Johnston was totally unplanned. That was all raw footage. Just absolutely, the first time meeting her was with the documentary filming us. The scene going into the World War II, replica place in Townsville was totally unscripted. We had just literally walked into that place because we were trying to find a place for the baby to nurse. There was there were no plans other than just purely convenience. And yet that scene all took place. And for all the viewers that hadn't seen it, go watch it on SBS On Demand. And if you have any questions or any comments, shoot me an email, chabadcairns@gmail.com. Be happy to answer any of the questions or any comments that you have on the documentary. It was a great documentary and a lot of fun filming.
Challenging time. Tell us about a challenging time. Like, it must have been tough, like, you know, all together all the time. And I know you like each other and all that, and, you know, being filmed constantly. There must have been some challenging times as well.
You know, some of the, I mean, it would have been a lot more challenging, but we mitigated it. The first week I went by myself, and Mushki stayed home. So that really took care of a lot of the problems I would have had. See, with the other Rabbi Yossi and Malki from Newcastle, so they were literally on the road in the RV for the full 2 weeks. No break. And so they actually had this really funny scene that the directors really wanted into the film, but Yossi and Malki ultimately vetoed it, of them having an argument. Just you know, a little domestic, you know, in between, just while they were filming, just in the RV, just, you know, they didn't realize that, you know, the cameras were rolling. I mean, obviously they knew it was there, but they didn't realize it, and they were having some sort of, you know, little domestic. And it was, I mean, I thought it was fine. It was, you know, it wasn't really, you know, any, you know, slings and arrows or anything. It was just, you know, some nice banter. But yeah, they definitely had it much worse than we did in that regard. We you know, I went home every night for the first week. For the first week, I literally went home. I would, you know, drive in the RV and then drive back home. You know, they wanted me to sleep over in all these places, but I'm like Innisfail is an hour and a half from me. Like, why would I sleep over in Innisfail? I'll just drive home, and then, you know, all the towns that they went to, Ravenshoe, Yamgabara, you know, I can drive home that night. I don't need to be able to you know, sleep in the tank uncomfortable, you know, the whole family, the kids and everything. So for us, it was a lot less, you know, we mitigated it. Originally, that's what they wanted us to do, but yeah, so.
Well, that's pretty cool. Look, we are flying through this, and as much as I'd like to stay on, and I've actually got some follow-up questions for that, but I just recommend people to watch it. So
yeah, we can always go back to any of these questions. You know, we
still you know,
to the main Gomenera also.
Yeah,
so we've got things to get back to if we run out of topics.
Oh, and we're not going to. But look, I know you've got some really great relations with other religions, not just you know, reprobate Catholics like me, but the Islamic community. And look, I know Iman Wasim speaks very highly of you. And look, you know, going off on a quick tangent, I'm also mates with another. I got to declare, I'm mates with another rabbi in New York, the Big Apple. So a big g'day to my mate Dan Rudafossi, who's a bit of a legend. He's got so many titles. He's a rabbi. He's a doctor of psychology. He's a former police sergeant. He's an author, lecturer, father, husband. Bit of a mentor to me in the same way that you are as well, Ari. And look, for the Islamic community that I know you're good friends with, at a date to be set, I'll be speaking with Iman Wasim and Iman Dr. Zahir, inshallah. And so, you know, do make sure that you tune into that. And anytime that I tell them that I'm going to catch up with you, they always ask to pass on their regards. So that's you know, that's really cool there. I'm going to really quickly play because I'm going to revisit the lesson stuff, because we're getting a fair bit of interest here on the comment screen, I've got to say, in regards to these lessons, Rabbi. I think we might end up with a couple of extra people there. But just give me.
That's what the Zoom room is for.
That's what the Zoom room is for, indeed. Just let me pull this up, and I'll go back into my sharing. As people can tell, I'm doing all this by myself. So if you see me like looking around and stuff.
Yeah, no worries. First of all, while you're looking, I have a great relationship, thank God, with all the imams here, and we meet every so often with different various interfaith functions or other things like that. And yeah, next time you see them, make sure to send my regards to them as well.
I will. So here's this.
As we've had some. I have a Catholic policeman that comes to my shiurim every week.
Really?
He loves it, and he loves it. We have many non-Jews in the community that are trying to help us in whatever way we can. We've had some of our non-Jewish neighbors come up to us with presents and gifts to give to our kids and stuff. So thank God we've only seen really positive incidents with the community.
So that, I got to say, I think that is magnificent, and it leads on directly. Yeah, these reprobate Catholic cops that turn up to these lessons. I'd really,
for all those who don't understand, shiurim is the Hebrew word for lessons. Just
Yeah.
so that they just in case people thought that I was saying something else.
Yeah, no, and that came, no. Sorry, because I've picked up one or two words from hanging out with another guy, so I should have said that. The sound came through on that, I assume.
Yes, yeah. That time it was perfect.
We know that anti-Semitism is real, and it's like it's something that I kind of these sorts of religious persecution is something that I watch, and stats are really hard to get to get accurate, but strangely enough, like you'd think the Europeans would have learned, but anti-Semitism is on a real rise in Europe, which is concerning. It's like, guys, how many wars we've got to fight over there to kind of stop that sort of stuff. But have you had any real issues in Cairns? Can you kind of comment on that?
So that's funny because you actually that ties into the documentary. So when the documentary, when the director and the producer were talking with us about what to expect and what to do, so they're asking me if I've ever had any anti-Semitism or anything like that, and I said no, I hadn't, but they wanted to try and see if they could put me in situations to be able to try and get some anti-Semitism, because now, of course, they're don't wish anti-Semitism, but they, at the end of the day, want a good film, and they know that it'll make good film if they could find anything, any stories like that. That's why they had. You'll see there was in the documentary they did interview that guy in Ravenshoe, who was speaking about the Muslims and things like that, because that's what they were looking for, trying to be able to get some of this controversy. And they, would put me in, praying in the middle of the street in Innisfail in my full garb and everything, and walking in the Townsville Fair. They would try to put me in very open situations so that, to try and see if there'd be anything like that. Now, I can tell you, when I was in Melbourne, walking down the street, it wouldn't be uncommon to have, dirty Jew being, screamed out, or a spit every so often, here or there. It would, and Melbourne's a normal, city, and that wouldn't it wouldn't be uncommon. It's happened, many times. But to the credit of North Queenslanders, I have never had anything even remotely like that ever in North Queensland. I've only had really positive experiences from everybody here. It's been really amazing, really special, and the documentary crew saw that, and they weren't able to find anything like that, and that's a big credit to the North Queensland community, and I think the Queensland community. It's been really really well, and I haven't had anything. Although I must add, as I always do, that doesn't mean that there isn't anti-Semitism. I just haven't seen it. I do know that there was a tattoo parlor in the city who had a big sign on the door that said "No Israelis served here," and I can't think of any reason why Israelis would be singled out over any other country that has so-called human rights abuses. I don't know why Israel would be any more than just to the list of all the other human rights abusers. But so to me that seems anti-Semitic.
I can give an indication about that, and because it's not duty related, I can speak clearly about it. I was walking down. I don't know if that parlor is still there actually, because I haven't been post COVID. But there used to be a really good food court right near where that was, right near where that was. And I'm just strolling along there one day, and I saw that sign. I've done the big Kramer double take, and I've walked in. Here's this guy, and he's working on this stuff, and he's got a cool motorbike out the front and all that. And I'm like, I had to walk in. I said, "What's the go with that?" And I just asked him, and I was trying, because he wasn't a big guy. But I didn't want to be confrontational anyway. I just kind of and he goes, "Well, mate, you're aware of, blah, blah, blah." And I went, "It's kind of anti-Semitic, sir, isn't it? It's, Israel's Jewish state. It's founded, from people fleeing the Holocaust, 47, all that." And he was like, no, it's not, it's like, without and I don't want to misrepresent him either, because, it may very well be the case that chap ends up listening to it. He ended up saying, no, he was associated with the BDS, the boycott, all those kind of people. And in his mind, there was a distinct compartmentalization. But again, because I'm in public and I haven't sorted out the insurance issues yet, I don't want to go saying what I actually think about that chap and what was actually going on in his mind. But other than to make the observation that there was some degree of incongruity between what he was saying and the stuff on his wall. And I think we'll leave it at that. But we are flying through this. We're flying through this, Rabbi. We really, really are. And hello to the Kennedys, who've come on board as well. To my excellent friend Janelle Jeffrey, to Rachel Robinson, thanks very much for coming on. I'm getting quite a few comments here. To Jason Steyer, to everyone else who's gone on, thank you very much. I seriously do recommend, turn up to these lessons. They're absolutely spectacular. And if a Catholic like me can turn up and absolutely love them, and I do, I assure you, anyone who wants to broaden their mind, and as I said at the beginning, who wants to learn, because for those who don't know, rabbi is actually the Hebrew word for teacher. And look, I'm sorry, I'm just going to have to say this publicly because it'll make you cringe, Ari, but Ari really is a learned man of the law. He really is a respected teacher. So, if you want to
take it,
it's an observation, not an attempt at flattery. And before I forget too, that chap you were talking about too, Norman Miller, who's so he wasn't. I was talking about somebody else, but Norman is great. I love Norman. I just assumed it to be Norman.
No. Norman's great. Norman's a reverend. He's not. I was talking about a different person. There's many. There are many. There's actually I know of at least 4 or 5 different families of Jewish Indigenous Australians living here in North Queensland. But I was specifically referring to one family. Norman's great. Norman and Barbara are wonderful.
Yeah, they're magnificent, and they turn up to Hanukkah as well. Yeah. So yeah, look, mate. Look, we're almost out of time, so I'm going to start, mate. Is there anything else you kind of want to say before I go into the wrap up? I'll get you to stay on too. Don't leave just yet.
No, anything. I'd love to answer anybody's questions that they have. If I can answer it here, that'd be great. Otherwise, if they want in private, I'd be happy to answer them as well. Go to chabadcairns@gmail.com.
Yep. And again, it's certainly that that unique perspective. It's kind of it's so worth it. Look, Ari, thank you very much for coming on. I've got to send out another really, really big thank you to Andrew Cummings, who's been doing tech support for me since this started off. Andrew, this podcast simply couldn't have got to where it is without you. Thank you very much. Every Wednesday, my colleague David Young does an excellent podcast on Podbeam. Yes to a North Queensland state. Wednesday nights between 7 p.m. and 8 p.m. Get the Podbeam app and have a listen. Northern Vibe is really evolving. We're quite close to getting our website up and running. We're serious when we say we're aiming to be Kansas' premier podcast. The numbers are there. We can really, really do this, and especially the help and support. There's a number of people who I've never seen come on before who are making comments. Thank you so much. It's awesome. Now you have to tune in next week, Monday the 4th of January. This one, this interview has been uber cool, but the next one is going to be so good. I'm speaking to Kansas' own makeup genius, a lady, Jessica Lynn. Now, I have been aching to speak to her while she is doing the interview, because I was talking to her and we weren't acquainted. She was actually suggested by a guest, said, Matt, you've got to talk to this lady. So I've had very brief conversations, not even face-to-face yet. And she's indicated that she's going to do a live transformation with makeup. She's going to transform someone while she's talking to me, doing an interview. This is going to be an awesome interview. It's going to take us to another level. You've got to tune into that. So if you tune into the same Matt time, the same Matt channel, we'll definitely be listening. That this will definitely be worth going into. And Rabbi, I got to say, are you a Matt as Yahoo fan?
I'm a fan of his earlier stuff.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. He's true. The earlier stuff. Yeah. Look, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for tuning in. We're going to go out on a song. I'm going to play a little bit of Matisyahu. For those who don't know who he is, he's a Jewish chap who was initially, I don't think he was a rabbi, but he was, I think he was Hagiastic as well. Is that the case, or Orthodox? Yeah, I'm not sure. And
he was from the same group that I'm in.
Oh, right. And he used to do performances in full garb. He's still profoundly.
He actually studied under Mushki's father for a while.
No way.
Yeah, just for a little stint in Israel.
Yeah, fantastic. Look, he's still proudly Jewish. He's just not in that. He's not in that sect. And anyone who watches his music knows that he's an unashamedly proud Jewish person, which is fantastic. But we're going to go out. I'm going to play a little bit of Matisyahu for you as we go out. Thank you very much. As I said, please do tune in next week. I promise that will be a worthwhile interview. You've got to come on board for that. So I'm going to tune out with a little bit of Matisyahu.
Sometimes I lay under the moon. I thank God I'm breathing. And I pray, don't take me soon, 'cause I am here for a reason. Sometimes in my tears I drown, but I never let it get me down. So when negativity surrounds, I know someday it'll all turn around, because all my life I've been waiting for, I've been praying for the people to say that we don't want to fight no more. There'll be no more wars, and our children will play. One day, one day, one day, one day, one day, one day. It's not about win or lose, 'cause we all lose when they bleed on the souls of the innocent. Blood-drenched pavement, keep on moving though the water stay raging. In this maze, you can lose your way, It might drive you crazy, but don't let it phase you, no way, no way. Sometimes in my tears I drown, but I never let it get me down. So when negativity surrounds, I know someday it'll all turn around, because all my life I've been waiting for, I've been praying for the people to say, wanna fight no more, there'll be no more wars, and our children will play. One day, one day, one day, one day, one day this all will change, treat people the same. Stop with the violence, down with the hate. One day we'll all be free and proud to be under the same sun, singing songs of freedom like one day, one day, one day. All my life I've been waiting for, I've been praying for the people to say that we don't want to fight no more. There'll be no more wars, and our children will play.
Thanks very much. Tune in next week. Really appreciate the support. You guys rock.